Well, hello. Here we are. Welcome to Friday Live. So basically, what I want to do going forward is, and I'm aware that my schedule for the channel's been a little bit, I would say it's been consistent, but I would also say that it's perhaps there's been some sort of lack of a format to what we're doing. You know, going from like daily live streaming to live streaming sometimes and then doing static videos and stuff like that. I think what I'm going to do going forward is do Friday live. So we're always going to do a live stream on Friday. Okay. That's going to be the key live stream of the week. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't then do other live streams at other points during the week, but it's just let's keep a regular Friday live stream going where we catch up and we chat about what's going on and we talk about some crazy dating problems and dating issues and relationship issues and things like that. So I think that's how somebody's saying blank screen. I think that is how we are going to do it so far. Just let me know if the screen is blank, because if it is, I don't really know why. It's very strange. I can see myself. If you can't see me, then that is very sad. But there you go. Such is life. I do have a really bad connection today. I don't know why. There's a really, really bad. It's blank. Okay. That is really weird. That is really, really weird. Let me just try that. Is that any better? Can people see that? Really, really strange. I've got a really bad connection today, and I don't know why. It seems to be wherever I go in the world, I'm plagued by extremely bad Wi-Fi, including in London, which theoretically, okay, so they're saying no either. All right, hold on a second. I'm going to come back in. Hang on. And here we are again. I don't know if that's any better. If it isn't, I might have to jettison the stream. I don't know. I seem to have, like, for some reason, really horrendous Wi-Fi. Good. Okay, that's better. Good. You can see my beautiful face. So yeah. Anyway, so what I'm saying is basically we're going to go live on Fridays. At minimum, there probably will be other live streams during the week, but I do also like doing the format of shorter static videos as well, because I think although there is this fashion for incredibly long live streams in this space where people talk for hours about different things, I think it's great and people obviously like them and I like them as well. But I also think that having some more digestible bite-sized content is valuable, right? I think just, getting to the point, having one point to make, making the point concisely in a shorter video that can then stay there for posterity, I think is a good thing to do, because you've got all these 3-hour live streams that people are doing. And there's probably some real great nuggets of information, but they're lost in the center of those 3-hour live streams. And really, in years to come, who's going to come back and watch like a 3-hour live stream of somebody talking about this nonsense? Probably not many people, right? So I think the shorter videos are really good. I'm also doing the podcast now. I'm doing the audio podcast now on a weekly basis. Again, I've been shifting around with the day a little bit on that. I do have a new one I made yesterday, which I'm going to put up today. I'm going to put it up on the podcast platforms today, including Spotify, which is now my biggest platform for the podcast. I'm going to put it up on the audio platforms, and then I will put it up on the channel on YouTube, maybe tomorrow, maybe Sunday. So that will be coming up very soon. But you need to follow me on Spotify if you want to hear it first, okay? And you should follow me on Spotify anyway, really, because as much as you might want to look at my beautiful face and all of that good stuff, the audio podcast is going to become a bigger feature of what I do. It's going to be weekly now, without fail. We're going to be doing a weekly audio podcast, really getting back onto that. And, for me personally, as much as I like to watch videos and things, I think sitting on the bus, on the train, whatever, listening to something on Spotify, it really works better for me a lot of the time, or you're in the gym or whatever, right? So the Superman mug is out. Yes, indeed. So yesterday I did a great show with Mr. King Dre. So King Dre was on the show yesterday. And if anybody didn't see that interview, and actually the views weren't as high as I hoped they were going to be. So I think a lot of you probably didn't see it, and you absolutely should. Because the thing with King Dre is he's a very, very perceptive human being. He really does have a deep insight into this stuff. And a deeper insight, perhaps, well, not a deeper insight, but he's got a very real insight, I think, into this stuff. And the conversation with him was fascinating. And he does have this course out at the moment, which obviously I was plugging because I've got to make a living somehow. So he's got this course out at the moment, which is called the Ultimate Ladies Man Summit. And I'll grab the link for that and put it into the chat. But basically, you've got today really to get on board with that, and then it's going to close. But so you need to have a look at that because it's some really, really good stuff. Loads and loads of value in what he's offering for a pretty low price, actually. But regardless of that, King Dre, very perceptive guy, very intelligent guy, very interesting to talk to him. So you should check out that stream from yesterday if you haven't already. Okay, it was the last video on here. So if anyone's got questions that they want to put into the chat, please do so, and we will get to them later on. Does everyone like my jacket? I bought this jacket yesterday. Well, actually, I got it online, and then I went and picked it up yesterday. So I'm going for a kind of a. I'm sort of moving towards a more English gentleman kind of look, I think, with my clothing. So I'm buying stuff in Jermyn Street, which is in London, which is a very well-known. In London, you've got Savile Row, which is really well known for men's clothes or for clothes tailors. And there's another street called Jermyn Street near to Piccadilly, which is also really well known mainly for men's clothes, actually. And there's some cool shops down there. So I've been buying more stuff on Jermyn Street because I really like this idea of like British sort of tailoring. This company, though, a lot of the stuff is actually made in Italy. So this was a bargain because I got this in a sale, but it's Italian fabric. It's Italian linen. So I'm quite happy with that. And I picked it up yesterday, and then I went to gentleman style like Tristan. So Tristan, who's obviously got a billion times more money than I do, he goes to Savile Row. So if you follow him on Instagram, Tristan Tate, he's shared a few little pictures and videos of him going to a tailor's. I think it's called Huntsman. On Savile Row, where he's getting sort of custom made stuff. My budget isn't that big, but I have had a couple of things actually altered on Savile Row. So I've had I've had a jacket and a waistcoat so far that I got, and then they weren't fitting particularly well. So I got them tailored on Savile Row, which I thought was pretty cool. But I also go to a tailor's now in Soho as well, who is very, very good. So yeah, the gentleman style, I think it's pretty cool. I think there's something sort of almost eccentric, if you like, about British style. If you take British style, but sort of the more eccentric side of British style, I think there's something pretty cool about that. So that's sort of what I'm going for. But then at the same time, there is this Italian thing about it as well. So anyway, just a little bit of an insight into my style regimen there. And when I put CAD Academy out, when I do the CAD Academy course, I am going to be talking about fashion, and I am going to be talking about style as more of a central component in that course, because I do think that it's very important in dating, because dating, as I was saying yesterday in something else, the stream I did yesterday, or something else I was recording, this whole dating process, particularly the approach, attraction, the initial phases, right? So much of it hinges on that first impression that you make. Okay. And this is where some of the naysayers are correct, really, because the naysayers will say, well, yeah, all this, game stuff that people talk about it doesn't work because all that matters is her first impression of you. And in some ways, I agree with that. And that's why I put out a video recently saying PUA is dead. Game is, in a critical condition. I mean, if game ever worked, I think it was very. It's only really worked on the margins. Really, the main thing that works really is that you've got value of some kind, and value can be different things, but you have some sort of value, and you are able then to communicate that value to the woman that you're attracted to when you go out, right? And part of that value is how you look. And it's physically it's aesthetically how you look, but it's also how you're dressed, right? You know, and if you're dressed in a cool way, that is going to carry weight on the first impression when you first go into the interaction. It's just a fact. I mean, there's no beating around the bush. There's no doubt about this. It's just simply a fact, okay? And I told the story several times, but I dated a girl that I met in the department store Harrods a few years ago. I'm still friends with her. I saw her on Sunday, actually. She's a cool girl. And I went into the store and I was wearing this coat that I had at the time from Reese, which is a pretty good brand in the UK. And it had like a nice furry collar, nice, like kind of military looking thing, kind of nice cut and everything. And, I got talking to her. I did my approach, which was basically me saying, "Hey, how are you? You look nice," or whatever. And I got her phone number and we ended up dating. But she said to me after that one of the reasons that she was attracted to me, not the only reason, but one of the reasons, she really liked the coat that I was wearing. She really liked my style. Okay. And she said, "Oh, you look like a general or something. You look like this, you know." So was it the thing that clinched the deal? No, I mean, it would be stupid to assume that it was. Did it have a bearing on it? Yes, absolutely. Because if I'd have gone in there in sweatpants and a hoodie and whatever, it just wouldn't have had that same impact. Okay. So that first impression, all important. And clothing, I believe, is a big component of that. Okay. So we will be talking about that more in CAD Academy when it reopens. Now, on CAD Academy, there is a little bit of news. I may be pushing the launch date back until the end of May. Okay, I'm going to confirm this after the weekend, but I may be pushing the launch date back. There's a number of reasons for this, but all it means is that you're going to have more time to get on the waiting list. Okay, and there's just going to be more of a lead time into it, right? But I will confirm that at the end of the weekend or on Monday. Okay, so just look out for that. There's a number of reasons behind it. I'll explain more. But we're getting a trailer done for CAD Academy at the moment. We're getting the launch page all set up and everything. So work going on behind the scenes on that. And also in the content, of course, because the content is going to be completely revamped to make it an incredibly comprehensive course. Really all about making that great first impression. Okay, that's kind of, if you had to simplify it down, that's kind of what it's all about. Okay. So anyway, that is work in progress. I will let you know. But CAD Academy is coming up very soon and you will hear all about it soon. I have a thing about checking out what men have on their feet. Yeah. It's funny because when I was, so I did that show yesterday with King Dre. And as soon as we switched the cameras off, the first thing King Dre says is, "Man, you got a load of women on your stream." And I said, "Yes, I know." I said, "It's great. They all sit there. I don't know how much they're buying, but they all sit there and comment, which is obviously very nice." So he was impressed. All right. Anyway, so let's get to the topic because we're 13 minutes in to this nonsense, and I haven't even talked about the topic yet. The topic really is something that somebody sent me actually that was on Reddit. Okay. And we'll have a talk about this. But in the meantime, as always, and thank you to the people who are tuning in to watch this. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you very much as well. Welcome. Please do hit subscribe, everybody. But if you are watching this live and you've got questions about dating, you've got questions about your, sex life, you've got questions about relationships in general, okay, put them into the chat and we will try to deal with them before the end of the stream because that's what this is all about. Okay, so Friday Live, I will have a topic. We're going to have a topic that we're going to discuss. But also, it's an opportunity just to ask questions, to shoot the breeze about whatever. So anything that you've got, whack it into the chat and we'll deal with it. Okay. And somebody has done that, actually. Simon has said, I go out every day in Bulgaria and approach 10 sets with little results out of it, getting frustrated and angry. What can I do? Well, it's one of those questions, and I don't want to seem evasive, but it's one of those questions. Probably need to have a private offline conversation about it because it could be any number of things, really. And it could be that your approach is not great. It could be that the way that you're presenting yourself is not optimal. It could be, I don't really know what the vibe is like in Bulgaria. I don't know what sort of location you're in Bulgaria and what the vibe is like there. I mean, that could have a bearing. There's so many different things that could have a bearing on it. So probably the best thing to do, if you want to drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, we can have a chat about it offline. But without knowing more detail, it's very difficult to really diagnose something like that. It could be any number of things. So basically, somebody sent me this from Reddit. This dude says, and this is quite recent actually, my girlfriend told me that her ex-fiancé invited her for dinner and she's considering going. Jeez. A friend of mine saw this actually, a girl I know saw this, and she texted me and she said, do people really ask these questions? And I said, well, they do, although this one was from Reddit. And then she said he's overthinking, but I'm not sure that he is overthinking. I don't know. We'll see what you guys think. He says, some background context. He's 37. She's 38. Blimey. He's snared a cougar. Okay. Well, anyway, so he's 37. She's 38. They're about the same age. She was in a 3-year relationship that was serious enough that they were engaged. All right. So she was with somebody for 3 years. That changed last July when they were going to move for her job, but he decided he didn't want to relocate and wanted to eventually move to another country, which isn't possible for her career. So he ended it. She was heartbroken. Then she took 3 to 4 months to process her feelings, and then she started casually meeting people. We met about 6 months after the breakup. So she's with a dude for 3 years. He dumps her because he's moving to another country. And then 6 months later, this guy who's posing the problem meets her and they start seeing each other. She is the type of person who's actively seeking a partner to grow old with. So when we met 2 months ago and connected, she said she was all in pretty quickly. All right. She said she was all in pretty quickly. We've been in a committed relationship for about a month. I mean, it's just, I don't even know if I need to read any more of this, really. I mean, why are these things always the bloody same? Basically, right. So let's just recap for people at the back. She's with the dude for 3 years. They were going to get engaged. He dumps her because he's moving countries. She's heartbroken. She takes a few months out and then she starts dating again 3 or 4 months later. And then after 6 months, she meets our OP. She meets the dude who's posed this question on Reddit. And then they're dating for a month. And he says, we're in a committed relationship after a month. I'm sorry, but that's just nonsense. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter the words that you use between you. A month, you are not in a committed relationship after a month. I mean, yes, okay. I concede that you could agree within the period of a month, right, we're exclusive, we're not going to be seeing other people. I get that. But look, the reality is a month, you hardly know somebody after a month. That's my view. You hardly know somebody after a month. It's ridiculous. Like, oh, we're in a committed relationship. After 4 weeks, nuts. Absolutely crazy. You're still in the, you hardly even met. You're still just in that very, very, very early period. So regardless, and as I say, you can say what you want between each other. You can say we're in a committed relationship. You can certainly say you're exclusive if you want to do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. But regardless, the fact is that for a real relationship to develop, you need a damn sight longer than a month. I mean, for me, you need about a decade, but you certainly need more than a month. Okay. So that is just nonsensical, I would say. And then he goes on to say, I usually go pretty slow to get emotionally attached to someone. And I'm somewhat protective of my feelings, but we get along really well. We have a lot of the same beliefs. She's a really great person. I have previously expressed concerns about her not having had enough time to process and properly move on from the previous relationship. Well, no shit. I mean, 6 months, is that long enough to process? I mean, I would say no, not really, but then I guess it's different for different people. But 6 months after a 3-year relationship that was an engagement, and they were going to get married and spend the rest of their lives together, and she was heartbroken. It's not a very long time, so you can't expect that much of somebody after just 6 months, I don't think. But here's this guy basically saying, well, I don't normally, cop feels that quickly, is what he's saying. I don't normally get feelings that quickly, but on this case, she was so great. We had a lot in common. We had the same beliefs. Well, okay, fine, but you need to hold back a little bit. I would say. I had previously expressed concerns about her not having had enough time, and she assured me that she had taken time after the breakup to process. Well, I mean, again, you've got to see the difference between what people say and what the reality is. Words don't mean very much, really. It's fine. Somebody can say, yes, I've processed it. That doesn't mean it's really true. She might be not wanting to. She's not going to come out to you and say, well, actually, I still really fantasize about my ex, or I'm still really missing him. She's not going to say that if that was the case, right? So, and even if maybe she's trying to kid herself, right? Maybe she's kidding herself that she's over this dude, when clearly, really, she just hasn't had enough time. So just because somebody says something to you, just because a woman says something to you when you're in a relationship, particularly the early stages of the relationship, don't just take it as gospel. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is true. Okay, not that she's like maliciously lying. It's just that people are often very keen to not hurt somebody else. And that's a really key thing, right? This is in relationships. A lot of the time, people, we don't like hurting other people, okay? We don't like being blunt with people. And a lot of us, we're quite conflict avoidant. And also we have that empathy for the other person. We're not all completely psychopathic. We have that empathy for the other person. We don't really want to hurt them. So we'll try and sugar the pill. And women do this a lot. Women will do this a lot. They'll try and sugar the pill and not necessarily say quite exactly what they're thinking. You can almost get somebody to say, almost anything, really. Because they want a quiet life and they don't want to hurt you, right? So words are secondary. You've got to look at the actions. Okay, words are secondary. You've got to look at the actions. Words don't mean very much a lot of the time. All right. Just pause for a comment. Where's Tusk? Still leading an expedition in the Amazon somewhere? Well, Tusk is in Colombia at the moment. So Tusk is in Colombia at the moment. I was going to be going. Something came up, so I was not able to go. I had to sort out some stuff here, but Tusk is over in Colombia at the moment. I believe that he's coming back to Europe quite soon, maybe London, but I think he's got an engagement somewhere in Europe to go to. And then I think their next port of call is going to be Argentina. As far as I know, I think it's going to be Argentina. Again, there's the possibility I could go there, but I haven't decided on that yet because I've got quite a lot of work to do and things to do. So, but yeah, Tusk is. I didn't hear from Tusk for a few days, and usually I hear from Tusk quite regularly. I'm not saying we're like, it's not like we're sort of saying goodnight every night or whatever, but I do hear from him quite regularly. I didn't hear from him for a few days. He'd gone totally offline, and I thought, geez, because I know how he likes to party. And I know what the vibe is like in Colombia. And I wasn't worried, but I did kind of think, I wonder what's happening. I wonder if they've just, gone on some crazy like bender or whatever. But he is alive and well, so it's all good. And we will actually be doing a show together quite soon. I need to contact him after this. There was talk about doing a stream together tomorrow. But even if we don't do that, we will probably do something very soon. So we'll have a bit of a catch up and find out. what's driving the so-called dating inflation in London? Myself and other guys here now having to date girls that are 2 or more numbers below our SMV. Is this a local trend or is it global? Well, it's certainly not global. It's certainly not global because, again, just talking about Colombia, none of that going on in Colombia. In fact, in Bogota, I mean, I kind of wish I was over there at the moment, to be honest, because in Bogota, my value, it's almost like loan to value, isn't it? When people talk about a mortgage, the loan to value rate. I mean, my value to the value of the person the woman who's attracted to me or whatever it's significantly better in Colombia than it is here. I think London's always been fairly difficult as a place for dating because there's a lot of competition here. There's a lot of people here, which is good. But there is also a lot of competition here. You've got a lot of very high value guys here, a lot of very, very wealthy guys here, celebrities, stuff like this. So there's all of that going on, plus just what's happening everywhere, which is the proliferation of social media and dating apps, and women have a lot of options, and they have options with some very high value guys. So I would say there's a number of different things going on, but it's certainly not a worldwide trend. I mean, if you go to, well, I was going to say Eastern Europe. I mean, Eastern Europe's tricky at the moment, but those places, and then also certainly Colombia, it's a very different story. So none of these trends I don't think are global. I don't think it's really I don't believe it's possible for there to be a global trend where the market is the same everywhere. I just don't think it could ever happen because you're always going to have exotic value in a different place. I don't see that going away. As much as the black pill pessimists would say that, it is, and they say, well, even when we were on the Wheat Waffle show a while back, Wheat Waffles was saying even what he calls geomaxing, which is basically getting on a plane to go and try your luck at dating elsewhere. He was saying even that's going to be saturated and it's not going to work anymore. I personally disagree. I just don't see how that can be the case. I mean, without a doubt, there are places that end up getting a bit saturated. Medellin, for example, in Colombia, from what the guys were telling me, Medellin, which is more of a well-known tourist destination, you get a lot of Americans there, a lot of gringos there and stuff. Medellin, by all accounts, is not as favorable as Bogota, for example. But I think the idea that the entire planet is going to become, a monoculture in terms of the dating marketplace, I just don't think that will ever happen. And it's certainly, even if it were possible to happen, and I'm not sure that it is, but even if it was, I don't think it's going to happen in any of our lifetimes. I just, I don't think things would move that quickly. Anyway, that's my take on it. But London's always been a bit tricky. The reason, perhaps, that London was better for dating some years ago was because there were more. What London's got going for it is the fact that it's multicultural. You've got people from all different parts of the world, right? But even then, as we've said a million times, if you are an incredibly beautiful Lithuanian girl who has come to work in Selfridges in London, right, and she's from the village, but now she's working here, she's going to be getting, propositioned by these footballers and, high value dudes or whatever. So her value is going to skyrocket when she comes here. But what made London very good a few years ago was the fact that there was such a huge, European crowd and Eastern European crowd and all the rest of it, which is less the case now. Because of various things, COVID, Brexit to some extent. London is expensive to live. It is expensive to live. Thinks of buying a place where. And there's some other stuff going on. All right. So anyway, this guy who's banging on about any more questions, any more comments, put them into the chat. So this dude, he's saying, I've got friends of both genders. And at first, she seemed concerned, but we worked through it. One of these friends is someone I dated 8 years ago. I mean, come on, like a month in, it seems a little bit. It seems a little bit heavy. 4 weeks into the relationship, for them to be laying down the law really about what friends they can see and stuff. I would think. One of these friends is someone I dated 8 years ago, where the relationship ended because there was no mutual attraction anymore. And we realized we were just friends. When we talked about it, she had indicated to me that she was not friends with exes and she didn't see the point because it was in the past and there were no hard feelings, but she moved on. So that's his girl that he's dating is saying that she doesn't believe in being friends with exes. What do people think about that? Should you be friends with exes? Can you be friends with exes? I think that sometimes you can actually. And the reason I say that is because I have actually now developed a friendship with an ex of mine from a few years ago. And she's a pretty cool girl. And she's with some other guy and, whatever. But I see her and, we chat and she gives me advice on things and stuff like that. So I think that you can, but it depends where you are in terms of having feelings for one another. And I certainly think that you can't immediately. I don't think you can just go from one day your boyfriend and girlfriend to the next day your friends. I think that there needs to be some time apart, and then perhaps after that you can, but not always. It really depends on the nature of your relationship and how you broke up and everything else. What else have we got? Right, so she told me yesterday that her ex-fiancé had reached out to her and wanted to go for dinner while he was in town as friends. Okay, as friends. She's still thinking about how she feels about going and told me she needs time to decide what to do. I told her that I was hurt and concerned that she had to think about it at all and that maybe it was too soon to be in a relationship. She got upset and she said she needs time to think. Okay, all right. So, what do we think about this then? So, this guy, her ex-fiance, come on. This is not even like they were dating. I mean, this is like kind of serious stuff. Her ex-fiance is in town and he wants to meet up with her for dinner as friends. All right. I mean, do we buy that? Does anyone buy that? Is it really as friends? They split up, 6 months ago? I mean, look, I am extremely cynical that he genuinely wants to meet her as friends. I just don't really buy it, because so he dumped her, right? Because he had to move countries. So he didn't necessarily dump her because he no longer had feelings for her. He dumped her because of a logistical thing. His career took him away. He was going to live somewhere else. So he dumped her. He broke off the engagement and moved to a different country. Even if it's the case that he wasn't really feeling it with her, and after 6 months he's kind of lost, he doesn't have feelings for her anymore, and he's like, oh, we should meet up as friends. I'm just not convinced in that situation you would really even want to meet up with her as friends, because if he was sort of over her, I suspect he would. Why would he really want to hang out with her? I don't know. It just doesn't. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really ring true. I mean, of course, the much more likely explanation is that this isn't about being friends at all. It's that he's in town for a few nights and he kind of misses her a bit, and he wants to. He's hoping to reignite things, even if just for a one-nighter, is the more obvious explanation. But even just playing along with it as though we believe what he's saying, would a guy really want to meet his ex after 6 months if he wasn't really feeling it with her? I don't really know why. I mean, unless it was the case that they genuinely did get on really well, and he's like, oh, she's just such a cool girl, and I want to chat to her and stuff like that. But I mean, even like this girl that I'm friends with now, I didn't see her or speak to her for quite a long time. I mean, we're talking like a couple of years, and then somehow I can't even remember how really, but we got back into contact. Maybe it was on social media, and kind of became whatever, kind of friendly. And then ended up sort of meeting up a few times. But it's very that by the way is very rare for me, actually. I don't generally do that with ex-girlfriends. It just happened on that with this particular one for some reason. It's happened, and I think it's a cool thing. I mean, as I say, we met up on Sunday and we were hanging out and chatting about stuff and things, and it was good. But in general, I don't really do it, because it's kind of like, well, the thing that you had together was the whole relationship, which was obviously includes the sexual component as well as the friendship component, and then I'm just trying to think of women where I've dated them, and then I've kind of lost interest. I'm not sure if after I had lost interest, I would then say, oh, I just want to go and hang out with her as friends. I just don't think, I can't see myself doing that. I'm much more likely to want to hang out with a woman as friends where, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's Friday afternoon. I'm getting tired. My brain's not working, but you know what I'm trying to say. I think there's got to be some residual, not attraction left there, but I think there's got to be some residual like interest left there. If you're with somebody and you're dating them and like, actually, I'm not feeling this, I don't think you'd then be like, oh, let's just go and hang out for coffee. I mean, it's just not. Why would you bother? Right. So Nikki says she is going to check out if he wants her back. So that's possible. I mean, I think that what happens a lot, and I heard this talked about I was listening to this female podcast actually the other day. I was listening to a podcast by some English girls who are on a reality show here, and I ended up listening to their podcast. And there's a couple of interesting nuggets in the podcast actually. But one of the things that they were saying was, and this is very true, what can happen after a breakup is that we want to control the other person still. And so that's why sometimes people will send like feeler messages, or they'll sort of keep somebody in their orbit to some extent. A woman might be happy that you've broken up. All right. A woman might have initiated the breakup. She may have dumped you, and she might actually genuinely be pretty happy that you guys have broken up, because she wanted her freedom. Maybe she wanted to go and have sex with someone else, and she's done that, and she's doing that, whatever. She's kind of happy that you guys have broken up. But also there's a little part of her that doesn't quite want to let you go. She doesn't quite. She wants to sort of just, do I still have tabs on this person or not? Could I, if I needed to, could I pull this person back in? And particularly, maybe it's a Friday night and she's come home and she's had a few drinks and stuff like that. And, a little bit of the residual feelings start to come up again. And then there's that temptation. And I've done this as well. Guys do this as well. There's that temptation to, I'm just going to send a little message. And then you send the message and then she responds. And then you don't want her anymore. You don't want to see her. You just, you're satisfied with the fact that, oh, she's still on the end of the phone. She's still responding. I could have met her if I'd have actually wanted to, right? And that really is a desire for control, a desire to maintain control over somebody else. That's really what that behavior is. And when I see it in myself, I try to resist it now. I try not to do it, because I don't think it's really fair on the other person. And also, you shouldn't still be engaged in some sort of a game with people that you're not even dating anymore or sleeping with anymore, right? You shouldn't be doing it. You should be moving on and doing other things, right? So when I recognize myself doing this or being tempted to do this, I'll try not to do it. But you do get this with girls a lot. And I think this is why people often talk about in dating, they will talk about female orbiters, right? You know, they'll talk about, oh, this girl's got all these guys who are like orbiting her, you know, messaging her the whole time. But she's not sleeping with them, and she probably doesn't intend to sleep with them, but she sort of is keeping them in her orbit of messages, of SMS, you know, or Instagram messages or whatever it is. I think that what am I thinking? Sorry, I just read a message from somebody. Yeah, so there is that temptation because we all have this dual nature, men and women. We have this dual desire that's split between a need for security and certainty and a need for excitement and thrills. Okay. And I think men have this in particular because men have this desire to go out and spread their wild oats, as the expression is, and all of that good stuff. But men also like having the assuredness of that woman who's at home or that woman who's on the other side of the phone who's going to respond to his text messages and so on and so forth. Okay. Women are like this as well, I think. I think women are also like this. They like the idea. So imagine a woman who's dumped you because she's met Chad. Okay. So this is a very stereotypical men's online kind of discussion point, right? So she was dating you, then she's met Mr. Chad, 7 foot tall, square jaw, bloody blah, whatever, high cheekbones, you know, all of that stuff. And she's dumped you for him, but now she's got into a thing with him, and maybe they're sleeping together, but she's realized that actually the ground here is a bit rocky because he's not really, I mean, yeah, he's having sex with her, but he's not really committing to her. You know, he's not really, he's not showing interest in this being necessarily a relationship. So she doesn't quite know where she stands with the new guy. So she's sort of in no man's land a little bit. And in that situation, she might be tempted to reach out to you, to send you messages, not particularly to meet up with you, not because she actually wants to do anything, but just so that she kind of knows you're there. Because if she knows that you're there, then that gives her that feeling of security that she craves. It's that feeling of like, well, look, if it all goes completely horribly wrong, at least Dave's still there. At least I can just message Dave and then I can meet up with him and it'll, you know, he will comfort me, whatever. Okay. And this is another reason why no contact is really important at the end of a relationship, because you don't want to be that security blanket for somebody else. You know, you don't want to be that security blanket for somebody else. You want them to want you on your own terms. You want them to want the whole package, right? You know, either we are dating, and dating, that includes, you know, we're having a sexual relationship, we're also hanging out, we're doing bloody blah, but boyfriend and girlfriend, or whatever it is, or we're not, you know, and you don't want to accept something that's a little bit in the middle of those two things. You don't want to be somebody's emotional tampon, as the expression used to be. So how do I relate that back to this story? Well, I think in this story, and some of the commentators underneath were pointing this out, he is very much, it would appear, he is very much the rebound guy. Okay. But anyway, let's just have a quick look and see. Let's have a quick look. And see if there's anything more to this. Right, he's saying, I'm struggling with the fact she's considering meeting up with her ex-fiancé for dinner. Well, I'm not surprised. It seems that there are unresolved feelings and maybe we should slow things down. This is further complicated by knowing how I feel hurt, but still thinking about meeting with him. I mean, yeah, I get it. But they've only been dating a month. So it's sort of like, I reckon what's happening is she's now getting buyer's remorse a little bit because he said earlier on in this thing that she is somebody who's moving very quickly. You know, she wants to find a partner, and she moved very quickly with him, and they sort of formalized things very quickly. I reckon that she's now having buyer's remorse about that. I think she's now saying, oh damn, I shouldn't have really kind of signed my life away quite so quickly, because now the ex-fiancé is back on the scene, and now the ex-fiancé wants to meet up with her for dinner, and she's thinking about it, and now she's getting a load of grief from this dude who she's only known for 4 weeks, who's saying that she can't go. And it's a bit like, well, I've known this dude for 4 weeks, and then here's a guy I was engaged to and I was with for 3 years. I mean, I reckon she's thinking, damn, I kind of wish I'd have not committed really to this guy as quickly. And this, again, another reason why making these commitments too early, these verbal contracts, or even as Ryan Stone might say, these covert contracts, you don't want to do it too early, right? Because once you do it, you're a bit stuck, you know? You're in a bind. And I think this woman's in a bind now, because I think she signed her life away too quickly to this new guy. And now she's thinking, oh, damn, because, you know, Mr. Engagement's back on the scene. So I think now what she is doing is she is going to try to distance herself from whatever was said and move more towards a position of what's actually the correct thing, which is, well, we've been together 4 weeks. You know, I'm thinking about meeting up with this guy. I mean, you shouldn't have too much of a big problem with that. And really, you know, to be honest, he shouldn't, because they've only been seeing each other for 4 weeks. And I don't think at 4 weeks, you really have a right to be laying down the law with somebody, but neither should you want to, because it's too early. You know, you shouldn't want to be laying down the law with somebody when you hardly know them and it's far, far too early in your relationship. Okay. Now, there's a good comment further down of somebody responding to this. And he's saying basically, well, should I slow things down, or should we break it up, or whatever? He talks about slowing down a lot. I think really, I mean, slowing down. I mean, maybe I wouldn't want. He's got himself into a pickle, hasn't he? Really, I wouldn't want to be that guy. And then you're sitting around on the Friday night, you know, eating a hot dog while she's out with the ex, and you're sitting there with your dick in your hand, thinking, well, are they going to have sex? Are they going to, you know, like, oh, it's 7:15 now. Are they onto the hors d'oeuvres, or are they, you know, or are they having sex in the toilets? You know, you're just sitting there like a cuck. Which is not a position I would want to be in. So I think, so there's a comment further down here. I wish I could find it. I can summarize what he said. Okay, here we go. Right. So somebody comments further down. I'm a big believer in letting your significant other do what they're going to do. Tell them what behaviors you will not tolerate and what the consequences will be if it happens anyway. For example, cheating. You cheat and the relationship is over. No second chance. All right? Stick with that and don't back down. You can't control people. All right? Just be ready to follow through with the consequence, or they'll never believe you. And I think that that's really what it comes down to in relationships. I think that it shouldn't be about laying down the law. It shouldn't be about him saying, well, you can't go. You can do this. You can't do that. Okay. I think a much better way of going about things is just to let her do whatever she wants. Let her do whatever she wants. All right. But if she goes on the dinner with the guy, should he stay with her? He's got himself into trouble now, because what I would have done would be, I would never have got into this situation in the first place. I wouldn't have had this conversation with her. I wouldn't have been talking about getting serious with somebody after 4 weeks. So what would have happened would have been, I probably wouldn't even have known about it. I probably wouldn't even have known that the ex-fiancé had come back into the picture. What probably would have happened would be that she would have gone on the dinner anyway without telling me, because we hadn't made any formal agreement between the two of us. She would have gone on the dinner anyway, and then it would have resolved it itself, because either she would have realized that actually she still wanted to be with this first guy, or whatever, and then they'd have gone off into the sunset together, and I would have just been left high and dry. But I wouldn't be that bothered because it's only 4 weeks into the relationship. Or she might have met up with him and realized, actually, do you know what? He's a jerk. I prefer Troy. And then she comes back to me and, no one's the wiser. I suppose you could argue she might have had a one-night stand with him and then come back to me as well. And people will have a view on that. But the thing is, let's be real. At the beginning of a relationship, before you guys are exclusive, people are doing their own thing. People are doing their own thing, and you might not like it. And I'm not saying I particularly like it, but that's the reality. And what you're doing, all you can do is look at somebody's behavior and then decide if it accords with what you want, and then make a decision whether you're going to stay in that person's life or you're going to remove yourself. That's all you can do, I think. I don't think that you should be laying down the law with somebody and saying, well, don't do this, don't do that. It's not realistic. They're not going to pay any attention anyway. And yeah, I think you look at the behavior, and over enough time, she's going to disqualify herself or not, depending on how she acts, if that makes sense. I'm just going back through the comments. Date with purpose. Indeed. If your girlfriend is going to have dinner with her ex, it's your responsibility as her current girlfriend to give her your credit card so the bill can be paid by you. Well, obviously you're not going to do that. But I think the thing is, in this case, he's not really her boyfriend. They're telling each other. He's telling himself he's her boyfriend. She's agreeing, but he's only known her 4 weeks. For me, that's not that. There hasn't been time yet to form a proper relationship. An informal meeting with someone who's seen me disrobed. No, thank you. Well, lots of people have seen me disrobed. I won't turn down a free lunch. Jack Murphy game intro. yeah. Well, Nikki's displaying the red pill for everybody to see, for everybody to chew on this red pill. I'm guilty of enjoying men showing interest in me, even if I have no intention of taking things further. That's just me being honest. Well, there you go. They say that for women, the attention is the key thing. What if the guys were unattractive, though? Does that count if the guy's unattractive? Do they have to be, have a certain level of attractiveness to make it count, if you see what I mean? Or does it matter if he's a he's a fugly? Yeah, he has to let her go. If they're meant to be together, she will come back. I think basically I agree with that, but I don't quite like the way that you're putting it. You're making it sound very rom-com. It's like, if it's meant to be, I'll just let her go. I'll let that bird fly. And if that bird flies back to me, it was meant to be. It all sounds a little bit like a Morgan Freeman voiceover, which doesn't sound at all like what I just did. But you know what I'm saying? It sounds a little bit Hallmark card. I think that you're right, but I don't really see it quite in that romantic way. I think, for me, dating basically is a process of hanging out with somebody for a period of time and watching how they act and watching how they respond to you and kind of seeing what happens, really. And what tends to happen is that the ones who are the real ones, as the kids say these days, will prove themselves to be decent and honorable and good people and whatever. And slowly you guys will get closer, and then naturally it will turn into something. All right. And the bad apples will show themselves to be bad apples, and then either they'll remove themselves from your life or you remove them from your life. Okay. So yes, in essence, if it's meant to be, she will come back, but it's not even such a romantic thing as that. It's more like, let her do her thing. Let her do her thing. All right. And if she's gonna, even though she knows this dude's gonna be hurt, she's gonna go on the dinner anyway. He's now gonna have to make a decision on whether he's going to countenance that behavior or not. Now, as I said, if it was me, I wouldn't have laid down the law with her in the first place. I wouldn't have made all these big commitments a month in anyway. So it wouldn't really be an issue. Really. He's made it an issue because he's had these conversations with her that have created these contracts between them whereby now it's a big issue because she's choosing to go on a dinner with somebody that she used to be with, and he knows about it. And so if he just lets her go, is he going to look a bit weak? Arguably, maybe. He's got himself into a situation that he didn't really have to be in, is what I'm saying. Because you're right, she might just go on the dinner and she thinks, actually, this dude's a bit of a jerk, whatever, don't like him, I like my new guy. And then it's not a big deal. But now, because he's made a big deal about it, because now he's the way that it's been framed is that she's now being almost disloyal to him by going on this dinner, even though they've only known each other for 4 weeks. He's now sort of compelled to take a bit of a stand on it. I think if it was me, to be honest, with the way things are now, I think I would just say, look, do what you've got to do. I think if she went on the dinner, I would probably just stop seeing her. I think, just being honest, I think that's probably what I would do. I wouldn't necessarily tell her that as an ultimatum. I wouldn't say, if you see him, I'm not going to see you again, or, make a big deal about it like that. I think I would probably just say, yeah, do what you got to do, whatever. See what she does. She goes on the dinner. So, okay, fine. I'm just not going to message her anymore. I think really that's kind of what he has to do now. So I would make it clear she can go and see her ex, but it will be a red line for me, and she's serious about the relationship. She should not go to see her ex. Yeah, I agree. Again, though, it's problematic because he's only a month in. If they'd have been seeing each other for 6 months, okay, he would have much more grounds. If this was happening, but they've been seeing each other for 6 months or a year, I would then say definitely. You want to say to her, look, this is a red line. Of course, you can do whatever you want to do, but if you see him, I can't see us really moving forward together because it's really disrespecting the relationship, and that's not the kind of person I want to be with. But after a month, it just doesn't sit right with me. Exactly, 4 weeks. He needs to get a grip. This is the line of death. She steps over it. He draws another line in the sand. This is the line. Yeah. He's making himself look desperate. Yes, exactly. I think he's created a problem for himself here, which didn't really need to happen. Because, look, I mean, Troy's a Southern Belle, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really be up for going for a dinner with her ex-fiance either, though. To be honest, I mean, the whole thing is just a bit of a pain. I mean, I suppose actually, look, I suppose I could imagine a situation. I don't know. I just can't get over this 4 weeks thing, though. Really, I can't. I just can't see. 4 weeks is such a short amount of time. I can't see any girl that I was seeing after 4 weeks would be like, oh, I've got to tell you something, Troy. I'm going to go and see this guy that I used to date. I just don't feel we would be that close yet that she would be compelled to tell me it, really. I think she would more likely probably just do it. Now, you might then say, well, you're the cuck then because, she's gone and, she'll go and do stuff behind your back. But for me, that's just the price of doing business, really. I think that I would not seek to tie somebody down in the first 4 weeks because I also don't know them. They don't know me, but I also don't know them. How do I know after 4 weeks that this woman is somebody that I want to commit in a long-term relationship with? I don't think you do. And part of how you know, and I suppose this is maybe a good point to finish on, part of the way that you know if somebody is a good person to commit to in a relationship is whether they're going to do stupid shit like going out with their ex-fiancé for dinner. So this is why you don't commit too early, because you're waiting to see if red flags like this come up. Okay, he's committed before he was aware of the red flags. Now a red flag's emerged, and he's in a difficult situation. He shouldn't have committed too early. He should have just dated her, observed what she did, and then made his own decisions based on that. I think that's the clearest I can put it. Marlon says a woman will do what she wants to do, covertly or overtly, but her actions will tell you all you need to know. Focus on yourself. Yeah, I mean, look, I think to conclude, look, she's only been split up from this guy 6 months. She's only been dating this dude for 4 weeks. It would seem to me, without knowing anybody in this equation, that she still has unresolved feelings for the guy. The OP has committed too early. I think he needs to pull back. I think he needs to be just like, look, do what you've got to do. But I think that in his head, he needs to think, all right, look, I'm going to walk away from this because her feelings are not resolved. And, and I think you just need to learn the lesson from it. Don't commit too early. Stupid thing to do. You just create problems for yourself that don't need to be there. Risk you take in every relationship as to whether someone is completely honest with you or not. Well, yeah, it is. It is absolutely. Relationships are all about risk. And that's true. Because if you become close with someone and you become kind of vulnerable with somebody, then there's always a risk that you're going to get hurt. There's always a risk they're going to do something and it's going to, rip your heart out. And that's, part of what you sign on the dotted line for, really. But the only way to mitigate that, or to at least attempt to mitigate that, is to observe the person over a longish period of time to see what they do. And you don't commit to somebody until you've known them for a longish period of time. So you can say, well, actually, I know her pretty well now. And I kind of know, I don't think, in my estimation, she's the kind of person who would do X. But you're only going to know that after a year, 6 months minimum, a year, year and a half, 2 years, right? You get to know somebody a bit more. They could still do the dirty on you. They could still go behind your back and stick the dagger in. I mean, that still happens. But to commit to someone after a few weeks is a bad idea. Will you be at the Berlin Love Parade in July? I didn't know it was on, actually. Might be, yeah. Relationships aren't risky. There are simply people with good and bad intentions. Well, I don't know. Maybe. I think there's always a bit of risk, to be honest. Out on a limb is where the fruit is. Okay, guys. That's it from me for today. It's been a great hour, really chewing on the bone of these meaty issues. We'll be back, as I say, Friday live. We're going to be doing live streams on Fridays and probably at other times during the week, but I'm going to certainly be doing them regularly on Fridays, so look out for that. Rule Zero, I think, is on this channel tomorrow, so look out for that. We're going to be working out the topic very soon. What have I got to promote? I would say, if you haven't yet checked out the Ultimate Ladies Man Summit by King Dre, then you need to check that out. The link is, I'll put the link in the description below. So have a look at that because it's closing today and he's a really good guy. He's got some great information and there's just a ton of value in that course that he's doing. And I would also say that you need to get on the waiting list for my course, CAD Academy, which is going to be out soon. Again, the link is in the description below. So I'll say goodbye for now and don't commit too early, guys, unless it's committing to this channel by hitting the subscribe button. In that case, I would advise you to commit immediately and to love me forevermore. All right. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.